A shocking new government report reveals that hundreds of Valley veterans were forced to wait to learn if they had cancer. And if you wonder why, it's because the test kits that held answers sat for months in a warehouse because no one paid the postage to have them mailed. Unbelievable. And now many are wondering how this could have happened. Thanks for joining us for 12 News at 10. I'm Mark Curtis.
And I'm Kadiba Devine. This is just the latest problem uncovered at the Phoenix VA hospital. 12 News journalist Jonathan McCall is live with what the report uncovered. Jonathan?
Mark Caribe, that information coming in a 43-page report from the Veterans Affairs Office of the Inspector General. 406 veterans in all had their test kits sitting in that warehouse. Only 3 of them were able to be processed and used. Tonight, the VA says they have been able to help some of those veterans, but there are still questions on whether they've been able to help them all. According to the Department of Veterans Affairs, 1 million American veterans over the age of 50 will develop colon cancer. 433,000 will die from it. For hundreds of Valley veterans, they had to wait for months to learn those life and death answers from the Phoenix VA hospital.
When you have delays in those sorts of positive screenings, you have delays in cancer, those are the things that can kill you.
A new report from the VA Office of Inspector General found more than 400 colon cancer testing kits administered at the Phoenix VA hospital sat for 60 days in a post office warehouse because the postage to have them shipped to a lab for testing never got paid.
And we just don't know what those delays will hurt and what percentage it will hurt.
Darren Selnick is with Concerned Veterans of America, an advocacy group that works on policies that protect veterans. He's also worked under 2 VA secretaries. In that time, he says,
I have seen over the years a rapid decrease in the operational capabilities.
So what went wrong? The report found that someone is required to make payment for postage on the kits. But after a change in supervisors, the information was never passed on. 403 kits in all destroyed because of the delay, causing veterans to begin the process yet again to learn if they have cancer. After learning the problem, staff members working quickly to identify patients and developing follow-up treatment plans. In a statement to 12 News, the Phoenix VA hospital said that, quote, it acknowledges that we did not meet our goals in these cases and that they have already started implementing policy and changes to ensure similar incidents are prevented in the future. Every member of Arizona's congressional delegation received a copy of that report, but 3 members of the delegation actually sit on Veterans Affairs committees. Kirsten Sinema is on the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee. Representatives Juan Ciscomani and Eli Crane are both members of the House Veterans Affairs Committee. 12 News reaching out to their offices for comment on the report. Sinema calling it unacceptable, saying that she'll continue to hold the VA accountable. Ciscomani said in part that, quote, it's unacceptable that something as dire as cancer screenings have been foregone due to a needless error. Representative Crane said that, quote, these heroes put their lives on the line for our freedom, so any failure by careless bureaucratic missteps is inexcusable. The big question for Selnick, what happens next? He says while the report does shine a light, he says action is needed.
The OIG is good at identifying problems. They're not so good at fixing them or holding people accountable.
So one of the other things mentioned in that report, about 47 veterans who initially had those test kits have not been able to have been reached so far by the VA. That's according to that report in May of earlier this year. There are still 47 veterans who the VA has not been able to reach to actually take another test to see if they indeed do have cancer. We'll make sure to post that report for you so you can read it online. It's in its entirety at 12news.com. We are live tonight in Central Phoenix. I'm Jonathan McCall, 12 News.
Tonight, it's a story that you'll only see here on 12 News. A phone number to help veterans in crisis leads to nowhere. A woman looking to save a friend is sharing her story to help other veterans considering suicide. 12 News journalist Jonathan McCall talked with her this evening and has the very latest on the VA hotline where no one answers the phone.
When saving the lives of America's veterans from suicide, every second counts.
He was in a lot of physical and emotional pain this week.
In 2021, more than 6,300 veterans ended their lives, according to the Department of Veterans Affairs. This week, Sue Henderson found herself in a race against time, trying to save a longtime friend who served in the Vietnam War.
He mentioned feeling like it was time to end his life, and he didn't want to continue living.
That's when she intervened.
Welcome to the Phoenix VA Medical Center.
Calling the Carl Hayden VA Medical Center's main line.
If you are having thoughts of suicide, press 7 now to be connected to the Veterans Crisis Line.
If you would like to return to the main menu, press start now or stay on the line to be connected.
Hoping to get a live person, but instead.
Not even a clear recording. It was a bunch of like strange numbers. Beep, bop, beep, bop. This is not monitored. I'll be honest, I was pissed off.
It was a prompt that she says led to nowhere. So what happened when we called the VA? Here's what we got when we also pressed number 7.
Wait while I transfer your call. Sorry, Phone ABCL transfer is not available.
It's an easy fix. The VA should be able to take care of it like in a day or so.
Darren Selnick is with Concerned Veterans of America, a veterans advocacy group, and says that veterans often run into dead ends calling VA facilities.
The VA hospitals themselves are very notorious for veterans calling and unable to get help for anything.
He urges veterans who may be feeling suicidal not to wait for the VA and to use other resources like the 988 National Suicide Prevention Hotline, which is what Sue finally did after getting the runaround.
And that part of the story has a happy ending. They called him within 10 minutes. They did send the police and an ambulance, and I'm happy to report he's currently in the hospital and getting care.
She worries just how many veterans could be lost if the change isn't fixed soon.
That's why I called you all. This is too important just to, fill out some form online and email it to some unmonitored email box and have it lie there forever.
So today, 12 News did reach out to the VA here in Phoenix. We emailed, we called for comment on the problem. So far, we have yet to hear back. We also want to let you know that help is available for you or anyone you may know who could be considering suicide. The number to dial is 988. Jonathan McCall, 12 News. Tonight, the Department of Veterans Affairs promising change at the Phoenix VA Hospital less than 24 hours after 12 News first told you about a veterans crisis hotline that led to nowhere.
Wait while I transfer your call. Sorry, Phone ABCL transfer is not available.
Last night on 12 News at 10 o'clock, I introduced you to Sue Henderson of Chandler. That's her right there. That's the message that she says she got when she called the Carl Hayden VA Medical Center in Phoenix earlier this week to help a veteran friend who was expressing suicidal thoughts. After seeing my story, the secretary of the VA's office reaching out to me this afternoon to tell me that they were not aware of that problem but are working on a fix as soon as possible. The VA also saying in a statement that they're using every tool at their disposal to prevent tragedies while also saving veterans' lives.
Not even a clear recording. It was a bunch of like strange numbers. Beep, bop, beep, bop. This is not monitored. I'll be honest, I was pissed off.
It's an easy fix. The VA should be able to take care of it like in a day or so.
Says that she was able to get her friend help using 988. The VA says there are multiple resources available for veterans experiencing a mental health crisis. They encourage veterans to seek help at any medical facility, not just the VA, or to call the National Suicide and Crisis Prevention Hotline, that number 988.
New tonight, Arizona's entire congressional delegation is demanding answers about why a veteran who died had to wait more than 10 minutes for medical attention just last year, all despite him being just feet away from the Phoenix VA hospital. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle want those answers from the VA secretary. Tonight, 12 News journalist Jonathan McCall has the latest on a series of troubling issues at the Phoenix VA hospital.
Tonight, a new report from the VA Office of Inspector General is raising red flags about procedures and protocols at the Phoenix VA hospital. The report looking into an incident of a man who died just days after passing out in the parking lot of the hospital after an appointment. Investigators say they found the man had to wait more than 10 minutes for help, despite being just feet away from basic care. Phoenix Fire arriving to the hospital only to take the man to another facility.
Well, let me tell you, it's one of the most egregious things that can happen.
Darren Selnick is with Concerned Veterans for America, a veterans advocacy group.
Veterans, and this is why veterans have lost faith in the VA healthcare system.
The report found that conflicting policies, a lack of staff trained in CPR, and limited access to defibrillators may have all played a role in the patient's delayed care.
Obviously, protocols were broken. Obviously, there is a problem at this medical center.
12 News has documented a series of issues at the Phoenix VA hospital in recent months.
Is not available.
In March, we first told you when a suicide prevention line to save lives went nowhere. In November, a report found hundreds of colon cancer test kits sat in a warehouse for months and had to be tossed because no one paid the postage. That new report also coming a decade after the Phoenix VA hospital was at the center of a nationwide scandal exposing how veterans were dying as they waited for medical care.
But where's the accountability? Who's being fired? Who's being disciplined? What's the change?
Answers that all of Arizona's congressional delegation now want directly from VA Secretary Dennis McDonough. Friday, Congressman Greg Stanton said lawmakers on both sides of the aisle sending him a formal letter. Selnick says this latest incident in Phoenix should open a broader conversation.
Because we need to find out, was it really just Phoenix, or is this waiting to happen somewhere else?
In Phoenix, Jonathan McCall, 12 News.
Welcome back. Only on 12 News, the Secretary of Veterans Affairs says changes are coming to the VA system after an Arizona veteran who suffered a medical episode had to wait more than 10 minutes for medical care despite just being feet away from the hospital.
12 News journalist Jonathan McCall was the only reporter to ask the VA secretary about the incident during a trip to Phoenix this weekend.
We recognize that we are far from perfect. So we have to learn.
VA Secretary Dennis McDonough talking only to 12 News as he now calls for a system-wide review of the entire VA system after an Office of Inspector General report uncovered conflicting policies at the Phoenix VA hospital could have played a role in the death of an Arizona veteran last year.
My first and most profound thought is an expression of condolence to the family of this veteran.
Secretary McDonough in Phoenix over the weekend to speak at the Disabled American Veterans Convention. He credits workers at the hospital with helping to launch the investigation.
So the Inspector General has made us stronger in identifying those policies. We're correcting them. We're in a position now to ensure this doesn't happen again.
In March of last year, a veteran suffered a medical episode in the parking lot of the Phoenix VA hospital. Despite being just feet away from the hospital and medical care, the veteran had to wait 11 minutes for Phoenix Fire to arrive on scene. Fire crews took that veteran to another hospital where he died days later. That same report found that a policy at the Phoenix VA hospital requires workers to provide basic life-saving care to only patients inside of the building. 911 is called for emergencies outside the building. The report found that a worker tried to activate a rapid response team knowing it was not within policy, but hoping it would provide quicker access to life support to that veteran. The report found that the Phoenix VA's policy doesn't align with the VA policy to, quote, optimize patient safety and to, quote, manage cardiac arrest on VHA property. McDonough says the problem now being reviewed across America.
Fix it not just where it happens, but we fix it across the system.
The incident prompting Arizona's congressional delegation to call on McDonough for answers. He says he's looking forward to working with lawmakers, but so far...
So I have not responded to them yet, but I will forthwith.
Jonathan McCall, 12 News.
All right, Jonathan, thank you.